And I will still never forgive Tecmo Koei for what they did to Zhang He. I thought it would be a cute callback. That's all I thought it would be. Last week, celebrating 10 years of the Jimquisition, let's do a funny callback to that joke where Steph would say, look what they did to Zhang He in Dynasty Warriors 9. But, you know, emphasise the word did, because that would be a fun joke. And then not 2 days later, or 3, or 4, I don't know, days don't mean anything anymore, because I found out that I joked reality. I joked reality into being and they did it again. Look what they did it again. They fucking did it again. Look what they did to my boy. Look what they did to Zhang He! Dynasty Warriors Origins is on the horizon, and I'm still reeling from the fact they fucking took Zhang He's claws away again. They took his everything away this time. It's worse than last time. He just looks like some fucking guy. At the time of talking, it's been several days since I've seen it, and I've not gotten over it. I do not think I'm being unreasonable. I talked to Laura Kate Dale about it. I thought getting a professional consultant's view on whether or not everything in my life is okay might help me work out whether everything in my life is okay. That said, I didn't specify whether or not I was talking about the game, so she might have just been talking about me. Dynasty Warriors Origins is the latest installment of the Dynasty Warriors series and the first full-on Dynasty Warriors game since the utter travesty that was Dynasty Warriors 9. They recently released a demo of the thing, and so, of course, I played it because I am the leading authority on Dynasty Warriors and Dynasty Warriors-related products. So Origins, it's better than 9? At least it looks like they're trying to make a good game this time, instead of using an open-world format as an excuse to provide threadbare gameplay and copy-pasted assets are littered around a massive flat space, a fucking fuckhole. But using things as excuses for other things is a trademark of this series. I had a suspicion with Origins, a suspicion that once again masks and excuses were being sneakily deployed in order to obfuscate the fact that Omega Force was once again going to gut the movesets and make its roster of characters a bunch of fucking clones of each other. You see, Dynasty Warriors Origins is a Dynasty Warriors game in which you don't play as the Dynasty Warriors, which is something fans of Dynasty Warriors have all been clamoring for. Lord knows, what we've always wanted is to play as a nameless wanderer, a literal fucking nobody surrounded by historical heroes. Yes, that's the point of a game full of medieval badasses. That's what it should be about. It should be about wanderer guy. Origins producer Tomohiko Sho says one of the advantages of having this original protagonist is that because he does not exist in history is that you can determine your own story. Eventually you come to a point in the game where you decide between one of the Three Kingdoms lines that you want to follow. You could do that already, but with like loads and loads of characters from the kingdom. It's what they did to him. I'm not losing the plot. I want to make that clear, following what I've said and preceding what I'm gonna say. I am handling all of this rationally. I am handling what they did to him rationally. It's also been said that Dynasty Warriors Origins is hoping to target fans from the PlayStation 2 days, to which I say, I call bullshit artist on that, as someone who has played every game in the series and was so glued to Dynasty Warriors 3 that I was just literally playing a legally obtained copy of it on my Steam Deck. You want to know how I know that this game is not meant to appeal to Dynasty Warriors 3 fans like myself? Zhang He doesn't have his shirt off. Sorry, but you cannot convince me that Origins is for the hardest of hardcore Dynasty Warriors fans when the thing that made me hardest was Zhang He with his shirt off. Wait, that came out wrong? Wait, no it Didn't. Zhang He with his shirt off absolutely gives me a bone. But seriously, the last few DW games are convincing me that Tecmo Koei wants anything but classic Dynasty Warriors. The last mainline DW game to feel like a proper DW game was Dynasty Warriors 8, and the last expansion for that came out 10 years ago. The series has been suffering from Sonic syndrome for a while now, self-consciously trying to reinvent the wheel with every new iteration and not doing a good job of it. The only thing that stayed the same, truly, is the obscene amount of monetization and milking that accompanies every fresh release, but we'll get to that. Suffice to say, Origins continues the trend of assuming the series' biggest problem is that it was a big dumb hack-and-slash bit of fun. That was never, ever the problem. The fucking corner cutting and charging more money for less content overall was the problem, and that's still fucking there. I was immediately suspicious from the very announcement of this game, feeling like Wanderer Guy was going to be another method through which a Megaforce would try to justify or obscure the decimation of character variety. Character variety that historically has always been sold as DLC or expansion content for any game in which characters had their unique weapons swapped out for generic spears. And what do you know, there's Zhang He, a character whose trademark claws have always been among the most iconic in the series, and he's got a fucking spear, like a ton of other characters. And Origins might be the worst of them all in terms of cutting out variety. I mean, they've slimmed down the roster from, what is it, like 94 to 9 when it comes to the ones you might actually get to control. And they've been replaced by stuff that, if I'm quite honest, looks like stuff that was put in simply to justify the replacement. And that could be called rampant speculation on my part, but I don't think the speculation is particularly rampant when you're just following the track of their record. Because I knew it, because I knew the moment Wanderer Guy was cracked out that this would be another Dynasty Warriors game that would take away one of the biggest selling points of Dynasty Warriors games. When I played the demo for Origins, the first officer I dueled had a fucking stick with a big ball on the end of it, and my suspicions were confirmed. If you don't know, the stick with a big ball on the end is one of a Megaforce's favourite weapons to clone, so seeing it immediately pretty much told me all I needed to know. They did it again. After the demo, you're linked to the store page for the game, by the way, where you can see the $89.99 special edition. Do you know what you get for $20 more than the recommended retail price? A soundtrack, which, fuck that, it's not even content. 3 days early access, which, fuck that, early access unlocks are a scam. And you get some currency. That's what you get. No actual in-game content, nothing that is worth anywhere near $20 goddamn. Of the stuff you will actually get in-game use out of, you get a bit of currency for $20. A macro transaction. And we're gonna have to do a video on how the game industry overall is now replacing all in-game content on special editions with the early access scam. Anyway, same old Omega Force, same old Tecmo Koei, half a game at twice the price. I fully expect a shitload of overpriced DLC accompanying Origins because it accompanies every fucking Warriors game. I wonder if some claws will come with that. They fucking did last time. Now, before we crack on and really lay into Tecmo Koei's bullshit, you know, their fixing of unbroken things, what they did to Zhang He, let's be fair to Origins, because hey, the demo ain't all bad. And Zhang He isn't even in it. Based off the demo, Origins has done some things right. The biggest improvement from 9 being everything, because Dynasty Warriors 9 was fucking shit. Seriously, the map provided by the demo is just that, it's a map. The Battle of Chesui Gate is a self-contained battlefield instead of a bunch of open-world awfulness. This is objectively good. It appears greater importance has been placed on enemy and ally morale, an element that became pretty much vestigial over the years. I always liked the morale thing. The better you did, the better your army did, and things could happen that would make your army feel stronger or weaker. Some of the more tactically involving elements are genuinely well-implemented ideas that feel like positive steps forward. Allies giving more detailed statements about where they're going to go and what they're going to do on the battlefield so you can plan accordingly is a great thing. And I really like the grand strategy system, where enemy officers build up to some huge devastating maneuver unless you fulfill an objective in time, or allies do the same if you can protect them. That's That's cool, that's neat. That can be roped into the hack and slash action really smoothly. The game telling you to kill 500 soldiers or that dude over there is gonna fuck your shit up is absolutely on theme, and I am there for it. Duels are back, a feature not seen since, I think, Dynasty Warriors 4. I'll admit I was never a big fan of duels back in the day, but the ones in Origins do seem pretty cool, at least aesthetically, and they allow the incredibly busy combat system time to breathe. And yes, I did just describe a Dynasty Warriors game's combat system as busy. The other thing I really like are the troop commands, where you can order a unit of soldiers to charge at the enemy, encircle an opponent, or fire a volley of arrows. They're essentially gutted up cooldown abilities, but with a theme that fits the series perfectly. These positives are tempered with things that seem to miss the point of Dynasty Warriors, and I don't just mean the fact that all of the Dynasty Warriors have been sidelined in favour of some rando loser. Or is there a twist where it turns out the nameless loser was actually someone from history all along, even though interviews they've said he's not someone who existed in history? Oh, fuck off. He can wander off a fucking cliff. Anyway, main problem is just how much everything the game is trying to do. You're there surrounded by dozens of mooks, and what you want to do is, like, you know, Dynasty Warriors shit, except there's some arsehole who's powering through all of your moves, who requires parrying, except when his attacks can't be parried, and also does moves that require specific moves of yours to counter, with a sprawl of a control system, where you've got your usual hack and slash with your face buttons, the circle for your Musou attack, L1 to block, R2 to dodge, hold R1 and the face buttons for the special moves. Like, I just want to smash shit up. It's somewhat similar to the shit Dynasty Warriors 9 tried to pull with very specific attack types that honestly trivialized a lot of the hack and slash, but they've layered so much extra shit on top of it, and I don't know about anyone else. Well, actually, I do know about some members of anyone else, because some members of anyone else have laughed at me when I've said this, but honestly, I look at the Dynasty Warriors series as a spiritual successor to games like Golden Axe. Golden Axe was essentially a prototypical hack and slash, a brawler with weapons, and that's what Dynasty Warriors always has been, a brawler with weapons. I fell in love with Dynasty Warriors 3 because I grew up loving Golden Axe. And that's not what this is. It's incredibly busy and frantic in an oh shit, this screen is a mess way rather than a fun anarchic way. And while that may just be a case of needing getting used to, and I will try my best to get used to it, I do feel concerned that they're trying to fix the wrong things. Dynasty Warriors never needed to be complicated. It never needed to be quote unquote deep. It just needed to be better. It needed to not have its existing features the one fans liked being continually stripped down and replaced with gimmicks that cycle in and out like it's the Sonic franchise. Which, on that subject, the new Shadow content in the Sonic Generations remaster is so good. And it's because they followed KISS, Keep It Simple Sonic, or Shadow in this case. It's just Shadow running through levels, proper levels, well-designed ones, some of the best designed ones I've played in the series. The silly little gimmicks they give to Shadow throughout the campaign are the worst part, but even they're unobtrusive. Look, it's just really good, is what I'm saying. Like, I know that they're gonna do a Frontiers 2, and I am actually, despite hating Frontiers, I am actually okay with that, because I would like to see the combat system and that open world conceit in a good game. But I do want developers to know that sometimes the people that love your games will love your games because it's your games they love. Not some other game you're trying to copy, not some gimmicky new thing you've pulled out of your ass. Speaking of pulling things out your ass, I have gone off script a lot to do some tangents. I might be a little bit upset about what they did to Zhang He, but it has dawned on me that Laura subtitles these, and yeah, I'm sorry for all of the stuff I've been yelling that's not written down. I've gotten excitable again. And here we are with Dynasty Warriors Origins. A bunch of layered gimmicks, and the best thing about DW, the large roster of weird characters with cool weapons, has been sidelined again. And it does make me wonder exactly what is meant by the suggestion the game's intended to entice PS2 fans. Because aside from duels, the only thing that seems reminiscent of the old games is entirely audio-based. Specifically, the music for the demo is a new version of a DW4 track, and when you transition to duels, there's this specific sound effect that plays and has done from Dynasty Warriors 3, maybe even 2. In any case, it goes... I can't do it with my mouth, and it's not often I say that. And honestly, that's it. Because beyond that, much of the game is unrecognisable, and I should know because, again, I'm playing Dynasty Warriors 3 at the literal moment. It speaks to a certain shallow attitude we see in games sometimes, where a few shallow aesthetic nods to an older game are deemed enough of a nostalgia hook to convince fans that this is what they want. It's a bit patronising, really. I am not going to speak for every single fan, but literally the best thing about the series, for me, the thing that used to make me excited for each new Dynasty Warriors release, was seeing how the large roster of characters would look, sound, and play this time around. Every character would retain their basic personality and general aesthetic in the sequel, but would get a total makeover, a new voice, a new moveset, and just feel different. And it was awesome. Over time, however, that all eroded. The visual redesigns became less dramatic. The voice actors stayed the same and then eventually stopped getting localized versions at all. The movesets were kept and, worse, started to shrivel as more and more of them were cloned to be shared across half a dozen characters, as was seen in Dynasty Warriors 9. And as I said then, so many corners had been cut by that point as to make the game a fucking circle. And it seems the series is just trending boring now when it comes to the aesthetic, when it comes to the style of the characters, when it comes to their personalities. Looking at how drab and unremarkable the characters are looking in Dynasty Warriors Origins makes me sad. It's like Omegaforce really is starting to get high off the smell of its own realism bullshit. I don't want realism. I want Zhang He to make ethereal butterflies flutter out of his arsehole. While I won't speak for every fan, I know I'm not alone. In Japan, the developer has been facing similar criticisms from players who play Dynasty Warriors games because they like playing Dynasty Warriors games, not the guff they keep making. The series has had two previous instances where the cloning of characters and removal of iconic weaponry were a major issue. The aforementioned DW9, where they did Zhang He dirty by giving him pissy little throwing knives alongside all the other throwing knife pissers, and the earlier Dynasty Warriors 6, where they did Zhang He dirty by giving him a fucking spear. On these occasions, Omegaforces are liked to hide behind the excuse that I mentioned a moment ago. The excuse that they took out all the fun, quirky weapons because of realism. Which is... yeah, that's what we always wanted in a game where a strategist with a feather fan can kill 1,000 armed soldiers. Realism. The realism excuse has always been a lie, and I feel very confident calling it that, because on both occasions, any commitment to so-called realism went out the fucking window when Zhang He's claws returned as additional purchases. He got them back in 6 with the Extreme Legends expansion, and as I accurately predicted at the time with 9, he got them back as DLC. I said it was coming, I said it was gonna happen, and they did it. So fucking spare me. And the sad part is, the fact they're lying is actually better. If they sincerely believed realism is what the series ultimately needs, they truly don't know why their own games are good. According to the person on Blue Sky who's been in my replies talking about this game to absolutely everyone interacting with my criticism, and bless them for it, the devs are being a bit less dishonest this time around. Apparently they're admitting they feel it's unsustainable to have a huge roster with individual weapons anymore, hence the constant shearing back of them. And I wanted to touch on this regardless of whether they said anything, because it had crossed my mind before. If it is seen as an unsustainable thing to diversify a large roster of playable warriors, it's an interesting conundrum for myself. Because as someone who champions sustainable development, is seriously anti-crunch, and would rather games not be so fancy if fanciness comes at a human cost, this gives me pause. If it truly is too much to ask, am I wrong? Am I wrong to feel shortchanged by half a dozen once unique characters carrying a generic spear and no longer feeling special? Should I instead applaud Omegaforce for trying to innovate ways to work around that limitation with things like a singular protagonist? I don't know. It makes me think. However, it also makes me cynical, because if this has always been true, why have they tried the dishonest realism shit? And they sure seem capable of having dozens of weapons already made to sell as exorbitant and frankly unreasonable amounts of DLC. If a series producer told me anything about the series, I'd find it hard to trust a damn word, especially when they've historically cut corners in so many ways with so many games. Origins, unlike any mainline Warriors game since Dynasty Warriors 8 Extreme Legends definitive edition, which wasn't even definitive, that had a bunch of DLC too, does look to have stitched many corners back on. It does genuinely seem like a game made with some actual investment this time around, and that's great. But I do have to wonder if the main draw of the game for me, the large roster, would have been more sustainable if they'd not put so much investment into all those mechanics, gimmicks, and MacGuffins that are making Origins feel like less of a hack and slash, and more like a messy character action game. All I know for sure is that the very thing I like most about the series seems to not be a thing it's ever going to get anymore. Unless it's a crossover spin-off game where another company is footing the bill like the still fucking amazing Hyrule Warriors. And if it truly is the case that it's unsustainable to not do what they did to Zhang He, well, as far as I'm concerned, that means Dynasty Warriors as a series is unsustainable. And that sucks. As one of those fans from the PS2 days, where a new Dynasty Warriors was an exciting event where you'd see all these cool roster overhauls, I'm not being won over by a series where each new release is a disappointing case of seeing how generic they made your favourite character this time. Because it's not just Zhang He. Omega Force has added dozens of characters to the series over the decades, and they all have their fans. Yes, even him, and it's not fun for anyone to see their fave lose their cool unique weapon and strong visual aesthetic to become a watered-down face in the crowd with a big ball on the end of a stick. It's a disappointment every time, and if the only sustainable way to make a game is to make it disappointing on purpose, then perhaps it's time to just stop making them. At least until Nintendo wants to pay for another one, I'll be fine with that. I still have Dynasty Warriors 8, the last time Dynasty Warriors actually felt like Dynasty Warriors, and you didn't have to pay to stop it doing what they to Zhang He. Dynasty Warriors 9 was such a bad game that it caused me to, quite notoriously, reevaluate my love for what was my favourite video game series. And that love never really came back. Like, Hyrule Warriors is still fucking brilliant. Dynasty Warriors 8 Extreme Legends Complete Editions, no, Definitive Edition, but it isn't definitive because it's still got loads of DLC. If you ignore that bit, which is a hefty thing to ignore, but if you do it, then, yeah, out of the mainline games, that's the best one. Maybe Omega Force did make a rod for its own back when it normalised the idea that each new Dynasty Warriors would have an expanded roster, but that is the position they put themselves in, and if they can't do it anymore, well, they can't do Dynasty Warriors anymore, as far as I'm concerned, because that's what I liked it for, and if that's the case, fair enough, move on. Just wait until hopefully Nintendo wants another one. But it is sad, and it is a shame, and I don't know, maybe we will get a Dynasty Warriors 10 that is everything I would like it to be, and that would be great, but until then, I literally just have to go back to playing Dynasty Warriors 8, or Dynasty Warriors 3, which is legally obtained on my Steam Deck. Penny pasta, everyone, and thank God for me.